Welcome back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Yet again, we've got George McMillan III. George, welcome back.
Welcome. It's great to be back.
Yes, it's always great to have you on, George. We actually recorded about 10 minutes and then my camera decided to totally glitch out. So now we're going to see if we can make it through these technical difficulties of my camera just glitching and not dying, hopefully. And then we will get through today's topics. Today's comedy, because this is a comedy show for everybody who may have forgotten, has to do with Sunni Shiite divide, right, George?
Correct.
You wrote a paper 3 years ago that you sent me on LinkedIn, is it?
Yeah, I wrote a few. Well, yeah, that was the summer of 2021 when I was still in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be upgrading the different Sunni versus Shia plans eventually and putting them on my website. That's ravengeostrategic.com. But I originally posted the versions on my LinkedIn page.
Your LinkedIn is here. There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and play. Yeah, go ahead and play the Christopher Stevens video.
Let's play
Almost a week after the death of Ambassador Christopher Stevens, new amateur video has surfaced showing the aftermath of the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Libya. Amid the chaotic scene, several voices can be heard yelling in Arabic, "There's a man," and "Let's get him out of here." This man, a Libyan activist, says he was there when all of this was happening. He says the group didn't recognize the injured man as the ambassador. He says to them he was just a foreigner who needed help. He goes on to say that people were very happy and started to shout, "God is great," when they realized that he was alive. The State Department says it is aware of the video, but officials aren't saying much about its content.
This video and whether or not it's authentic and whether or not it
This is a comedy show, for the record.
It's an accurate representation of what happened, whether or not
nothing to do with reality.
Ambassador Stevens is going to be
history.
Part and parcel of this investigation.
Well, this is
as the Libyan government and the FBI investigate the deaths of Ambassador Stevens and 3 others in
Would you say this is what?
That was Gonzalo Lira's favorite spokesperson.
Yeah.
I investigate the deaths of Ambassador Stevens and 3 others in the attacks. Violent demonstrations continue at embassies throughout the Middle East. In the Pakistani city of Lahore, dozens tried to push their way through the barriers near the U.S. consulate while shouting, "Down with America." The protests stem from an independent movie made in the U.S. that mocks the Prophet Muhammad. The Obama administration has rejected the film, calling it disgusting.
That was ridiculous. Look at Hillary there. She looks all healthy and stuff still. These are reruns of jokes we already told, so that's why they sound so dry and George is not impressed.
Yes.
Yeah. So, everybody who's not aware, this channel is not eligible for monetization. There you go. The studio tells you. So, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, because that helps spread the word. If nothing else, George, shall we go to the second video about Obama?
Well, they don't want to. The powers that be don't want to fund comedy.
Comedy is dangerous, is what I hear.
Yes.
This is from a playlist I found from like 10, 12 years ago, something like that. Associated Press, Obama.
For President Obama, the news from Libya was momentous. The ruler he called a tyrant set to slaughter his own people had been killed when his hometown was overrun by government forces.
This marks the end of a long and painful chapter for the people of Libya, who now have the opportunity to determine their own destiny in a new and democratic Libya.
As Libyans celebrated with dancing and gunfire, the news reached Secretary of State Clinton in Afghanistan as she prepared for a round of interviews.
Wow.
While back in Washington, lawmakers scrambled to grasp the implications.
We are
obviously hopeful that that they will want to have a representative government and that they will be an ally of the United States.
Gaddafi was not only the Arab world's longest-serving autocrat, he was also a thorn in the side of American presidents, going back to Ronald Reagan, who once famously called him a mad dog. It was Reagan who first ordered Tripoli bombed after a Berlin blast killed U.S. troops. Over the years, Gaddafi agents were charged with blowing up a U.S. jetliner and other attacks. In March, when Gaddafi brutally tried to halt an uprising, Obama led a NATO air campaign that he now calls a landmark success.
Without putting a single U.S. service member on the ground, we achieved our objectives.
Officials say that mission will be wound up by week's end. But for the ex-rebels now running Libya, the job is just starting.
They have no political experience, no experience in governing, a terrible economic legacy.
Unlike Egypt or Tunisia, Libya must be rebuilt pretty much from scratch, raising huge questions.
Whether they can quickly reconstitute a police force and a justice system, whether the militias will disband or try to become power centers on their own.
Among those watching the jubilation back home was Gaddafi's immigration minister, who bolted in February.
It's a bittersweet moment. We paid too high price to see him gone.
Yet he says, in the end, it's for the best.
I know my people very well, that we're up to the task, and we will come out of this more united and, more determined to live in a free and civilized society.
So, as the Libyans would say, Shuj, how's it going in Libya?
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to play that first, when the Benghazi incident occurred with Christopher Stevens, I was actually going from downtown Baghdad out to the airport and then flying on to Istanbul over that weekend. So yeah, the whole region was on 9/11 because it was right around 9/11. And the week of. And then the other videos show, they killed Gaddafi. Of course, they killed him after he wanted to build oil and gas pipelines to Sicily and pay directly in euros and cut out the petrodollar middleman. So that was in the long line, in that tradition. Enrico Mattei of INE died doing the same thing on the Italian side in the late 1970s. Alfred Herhausen died.
Wait. Are you telling me that Gaddafi didn't die because of freedom and democracy and because he had troops raping people with Viagra pills?
Yeah, I somehow don't think that happened. But that's just my opinion. I was thousands of miles away. I just know that there's additional reasons.
Didn't he also do that man-made river project that stopped famine basically? And then didn't he also do he wanted to do more of them, I think. And didn't he also do that one thing with the gold dinar that he wanted to set up in Africa to liberate basically Africa from the central banking system?
Yeah, from the petrodollar, right. So Enrique Mattei of INE died in the 70s. Alfred Herhausen, who built the pipelines from Russia through Ukraine, and then to northern Germany, and then through Ukraine's through back then it was Czechoslovakia and Hungary, to Austria, and then to southern Germany. He got killed, and then later on it was when Shinzo Abe tried to build the pipelines from Sakhalin to Hokkaido Island in 2016. He was in negotiations with Putin to do that. The United States threw a fit, and then he ended up dying. The South Korean leader, I forget his name, but he was running on a Make South Korea Great Again movement, and he was willing to do deals with Russia to build a pipeline going through the going from North Korea down to South Korea. And then so he got stabbed in the neck we know that Fico wanted to continue to buy oil and gas from Russia through the pipelines, and he almost had an untimely demise also.
You're a conspiracy theorist, George. I really don't see any connection in all of these things that you've named. I really don't see any connection.
Right. I'm just naming naming random facts in history is all. We're not trying to generate any conspiracy theories. And then
correlation is not causation. Is that the
correct? Correlate. Yeah. Yes. You've taken that in methodology class. Yes, that's a good one. So then you know that they got plans for Orban, and your AV guy there and Vukic in Belgrade. They got plans for him too.
Well, they're putting the plans into high gear with this lithium mining from one side and everything else from the other side. In fact, we've got memes sent in by subscribers regarding that. Coup 101, hidden hand behind the grassroots movements. This was sent in by, if I'm not mistaken, Citizen 1001 or Vex, one of the two. All of the memes today are from Vex and Citizen. So, George, should we get into the 7P paper that you sent, or do you want to get into that article and those funny maps and weird colors?
Yeah, let's do the Sunni Shia maps real quick, because from when Jimmy Carter was in office, as he was elected in '76, came to office in '77, left office in January of '81 when Reagan came in. So what happened in that time period? In that time period, the Zbigniew Brzezinski was his security advisor, and he was a big reader of the Mahan, Mackinder, Speakman, sea power versus land power strategies, the 5 power center strategies that we went over. Boy, it was almost 2 years ago now. So for people that want to know more about it, go watch the old videos. Because again, these videos build on each other. They're not. None of these are one-off videos.
I'll probably leave a link somewhere.
Yeah, because we went into those in detail. We'll have to do another run of those. But anyway, they started funding the radical Shia movements in Pakistan. I mean, radical Sunni movements in Pakistan to kick out the Soviets out of Central Asia, to put pressure on them. General Zia al-Haq in Pakistan started working with the people from the Arab Peninsula to bring Wahhabism into Pakistan and into the Pashtun areas of Afghanistan during the Mujahideen days. I'm trying to go real quick here. The Shia had their revolution and had a theocracy in 78 going into 79. And the Sunnis had their theocratic revolution in the Grand Mosque seizure at the end of 79. The critical feature here in Islam, since Muhammad was elected by the imams after he died, and then they elected a caliph, the caliph is the only legitimate form of government in Islam. So family dynasties are illegitimate forms of government in Islam, and any Western form of government is illegitimate in the eyes of Islam. General Zia al-Haq wanted to further Sunni Wahhabism to push the Soviets back in Afghanistan and Central Asia, and the Arabs wanted the Sunni movement to enclose Iran, the Shia Iranian revolution. So you had two different reasons going on there. And just as an aside, since General Zia al-Haq assassinated Bhutto to come into power in 77, and I think he stayed in power till 87, I think it was 10, 11 years, they heavily put they started building the radical Sunni mosques. So people will say, well, Afghanistan was largely moderate Sufi Islam or Deobandist Islam. Well, whatever form of Islam it was in the 70s, by the time that the 80s rolled around in the 90s, it had become radicalized with Wahhabi fundamentalism, which basically they teach the Sunnah and the Hadith more than the Quran. The Sunnah and the Hadith is the life of Muhammad, and Muhammad was he in the second part of his life where he became effective was actually one of the greatest military leaders of all times. He was also one of the most brutal, but he got his Bedouin Wahhabis to completely overthrow the Middle East under his rule and spread Islam throughout North Africa and Central Asia. And then his followers kept on moving. Well, he moved it out, and then his followers kept on moving it out to all of North Africa, into Andalus, into Spain, and also into Central Asia. So it was tremendously effective. But that set the precedent of the only legitimate form of government in Islam is a caliph. So you fast forward, the Iranians, the Persians, they get their theocracy in 79 with the Iranian Revolution. But the Sunnis start funding the radical Sunni mosques all over the place, especially in Afghanistan, to contain Iran. So since they were trying to contain Iran, there's a lot of Western government entities that supported them. And Zbigniew Brzezinski and Stansfield Turner, they were great readers of Spikeman's strategy of containment, which led to Kennan's strategy of containment and the 5 power centers theory that we went into detail in the videos a couple of years ago. So ever since then, the Western entities have been working with the different Sunni groups, which became violent extremist organizations, VEOs, both in Central Asia to contain Iran and in other places in the Middle East. So that's how that evolved. So if you go over, okay, so here's a Sunni versus Shia map. Yeah, go ahead and pull out, and then we'll go to a different map. So basically, ever since the 79 Iranian Revolution, the strategy for Saudi Arabia Wahhabis is to circle and contain Iran. So they started massively funding the mosque building in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And the Pashtun were totally illiterate up until the mid-70s and 80s. But as that progressed, they became highly literate and trained in Islam, but they switched from Sufi Islam, moderate Islam, to a more radicalized form under the Mujahideen, and then it became the Taliban. So when we like a bunch of Sunni violent extremists, we name them one name. When the United States can't control them, then they change the name of them to the Taliban, and then those are the bad people. Hillary in one of his if you watch the Redacted, the lead up for Redacted, they're pre-programming every day. It has the Hillary video that says, well, some of the groups that were that we supported then are the same groups that we're fighting now. Yeah, she's talking about the Zbigniew Brzezinski, Stansfield Turner period was regime change, destabilization of the region. During GWAT, you had a regime change nation building program. And I think these people really thought it would work.
GWAT, Global War on Terror, for everybody who's not one of you guys. GWAT. A global war on terror is what George meant to say. Anyway, continue, George. Sorry, I had to translate for the common folk.
That's what I said, GWAT. So GWAT was regime change, nation building, which failed. And it looks like with the withdrawal from Afghanistan and everything else, they went back to regime change, destabilization strategy of Operation Cyclone. Again, people Google Operation Cyclone, read about it, go on YouTube, Google, and Google it there and watch videos on it. You'll know what I mean. people are already familiar with the Shia revolution in 79, but also Google and read about the Grand Mosque seizure in Mecca of 79, of November, December 79. The more you understand that, the more you understand this Sunni versus Shia encirclement and breakout strategies there. Yeah, pretty much all geostrategic theories are either containment theories, and then the other side's always trying to break out. So go to the other Sunni versus Shia maps, because
which other one?
Just anyone. Just throw one up there. You got the New York Times one is good, and that's the one that's Professor Azadi from Columbia University, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that's where he's from. Anyway,
yeah.
We're thankful to. We'll give him a shout out for making such a good video. I mean,
map. Yeah.
Map rather. So here you have. We'll just go to this one. So basically, the yellow areas are trying to encircle the red areas. That's pretty much where the Shias are, and the Iranian Shias are trying to reach out to the Arab Shias in Iraq and Syria and Jordan. Yeah, actually, if you switch over to the New York Times map, I think it's better for that one, for this discussion. There's different advantages to different maps. No, there's another one in there.
This one.
Yeah, that one. That's a little bit better. So, yeah, the purple areas are the sharp Wahhabist areas. The white areas is just desert where nobody really lives. Yeah, just to interpret the map for people who haven't been there. So once the United States went in there to do the regime change, nation building, all they did was take the lid off the dictators who are holding back the Sunni versus Shia rivalry. So once we got rid of Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, then the open hostilities between the Sunni versus Shia rivalry kicked in to high gear. One thing needs to be explained here. These wars are $10 million a day wars for the insurgents to fight. It costs about the same for us too. So how are these Bedouins out there? How are they paying for endless supplies of ammunition? Well, that kind of $10 million a day of days of guns and ammo, it does fall out of the sky, but it only falls out of the sky because of cargo helicopters and cargo airplanes. So there's only basically or trucks and ships. So you have to, the only people that own that kind of logistical supply equipment is either large multinational corporations or government entities. So the different government entities, what kind of people would fund violent extremist Wahhabi groups? Well, it's people from the Arabian Peninsula who would be funding radical Shia groups. Iranian Shia groups are called Iranian-backed militias, so they're IBMs. Sunni groups are Sunni VEOs, so it's IBMs versus VEOs is the lingo. So who would be funding IBMs? That's Iran, the Shia groups, and who's funding the Sunni Wahhabi groups? Well, that's people from the Arabian Peninsula and people from the Anglosphere.
Let's remember how ISIS died when the Russians started bombing the fuel convoys of ISIS or ISIL, whatever you want to call them.
It was
smuggling oil.
It was Al Qaeda in Iraq, and then it became ISIS, ISIL, and all that. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. Let's just give a shout out to the Russians for bombing that problem away.
I want to, I want to say something about that, and I'm very, very glad that you just B-rolled that, because you have the $10 million a day war. And I've said this before, and I want to say it again. If to get crude oil out, you have to get it across, in this case, the Turkish border out of Syria. So you have to have nation state complicity with the Turks. Then you have to, if you have crude oil, you can't do anything with it yourself. You have to take it to a refinery.
By the way, I think that oil ended up in Israel, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, continue with the refining.
Yeah, then you got to take it to the refinery. Well, once it's refined, then you need to put it on ocean-going ships and ship it someplace to sell it, or put it on pipelines to deliver it somehow. Well, if you're going to put it on pipelines and you're at the port, you're at the refineries in the Ceyhan area of Turkey, well, then the Turks are certainly, you need state complicity there again. Or if you send it on ships, the Turks are going to know it because the ships are coming out of their ports. They're documenting it. So then you have to go out in the world markets and sell it. Then you have to convert it into money in a bank account after the transaction's gone through. Then you have to go buy $10 million a day of guns and ammo. And then you got to ship it from wherever you're buying it. So, that cannot be done without state actor complicity and multinational corporations using their trucks and shipping. So then you need to ship it someplace, and you got to ship it back to Turkey, which is going to be really, kind of impossible for the Turkish customs not to realize what's going on. So again, you need state actor complicity. Then you got to ship it over the border back into Syria. So you need state actor complicity again. Then you need to ship it to wherever it needs to go inside Syria, to the VEOs that you're supporting. So again, you need trucking companies to do that. So to fund these wars, it takes so much state actor complicities at every single step, and large multinational corporations, because you have to own oil refineries, you have to own shipping companies, you have to own banks in order to do that. So there's no way that all the world's intelligence services are not fully aware of what's going on. So now when you get back to Christopher Stevens in Tripoli, you have Muammar Gaddafi with his immense armories of guns and ammo. That needed to go to, they wanted to control that and send it to the groups that were being supported in Turkey.
Syria.
Well, there's some people, and in Syria, excuse me. Turkey, then Syria. So
the democratic Syrian Free Forces of the liberal West and the profound freedom of united societies.
Yeah, so you still get down to
changing the name,
You still get, whatever the subgroup names are, you still have IBMs and VEOs. So you're still funding one or the other. So some people are going to be against that weapon shipment.
Break it down. IEMs and VBOs, is that what you said? Break them down.
IBMs, Iranian-backed militias, and Sunni violent extremist organizations. So the U.S. was taking control of Libya's armories and directing that towards the Free Syrian Army, they were supposed to be Sunni moderates. If that exists, I'll let the viewer decide whether those actually exist or not. Because
they only moderately cut off people's heads and film CIA production quality videos of it. Only moderate.
Right. And for anybody that wants additional information, as if I'm making this up or anything, just go to YouTube and search for General Austin briefs Congress on supporting the Free Syrian Army, and watch YouTube videos on that, because he was giving $500 million at the end of the train and equip mission. He was he said he only had 11 people left. Everyone else somehow disappeared with their guns, ammo, and their armored vehicles.
Sounds a lot like Ukraine.
Yeah, it just happened. So because it's amazing how people can watch those things on C-SPAN and not put together what occurred. So anyway, there's some people that were for the weapons being shipped into Turkey, into Syria, and there's some people that are against it. When some people's intelligence services find out that it's occurring, they will tell their proxies to go out there and stop it. So that's what happened in Benghazi. I should say some people theorize that's what happened in Benghazi, and that's why Christopher Stevens was killed.
I think we need to have a little break and throw up a meme. This was sent in by Vex. Dear Leos, don't end up looking like this. Train regularly, go to the range, take a course every now and then.
Yeah, it's just, this is diversity, equity, and inclusion just run amok, because I want people to think about how many prior military men are out there that have been in Iraq and Afghanistan and have a lot of experience in combat situations, or certainly in high threat environments and some gunfights, being in a hostile area. With all of those men that are available, they picked the Fumbalinas. So that's how bad it is. You have a whole bunch of
Fumbalinas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what you call them. Yeah, so with all the tremendously qualified men that they have, that have worked different Department of State WIPS programs, you have all of those people that could use a job, but no, they hire the least qualified for diversity, equity, and inclusion purposes. So yeah, it's not like there's the thing is there's tons of better people to hire out there. There's not like a few. There's a lot. I've worked with a lot of them. So
I believe you, George.
Yeah, I mean, what's that?
I'm sure. I believe you, George. I'm sure there's a lot of veterans too that are unemployed that could use some real work. Anyway, do you want to shift gears from useless hires to useless posting on LinkedIn? What is your take on the LinkedIn experience? I've never been a member of LinkedIn, nor do I ever want to be. How would you rate LinkedIn on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's got its pros and cons.
George, diplomatic as always.
We will not be discussing that on this show. That is more for
it's a different kind of comedy.
Conversation.
That's a different kind of comedy.
That's a different type of comedy. Well, some people aren't too amused at what I've been writing.
Do you want to outline what you wrote here 3 years ago?
Oh, I just went over it.
All right.
I already went over that.
People can pause and read it if they're interested. George, is there anything else you'd like to cover on this topic?
No.
Are we done with this recording?
Yeah, but we're done for it today. But we're gonna have to go back into the topic at some point for like a month. But it's gonna be a few months.
All right. Stop blaming yourself and others. Learn feng shui and blame the furniture. That is today's Chinese proverb, I guess. Everybody who stuck around, thank you for sticking around. This one's a little shorter than usual. George, thank you for coming on. We'll be recording again soon. Everyone, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you again soon. George, say bye.
Bye.
Peace out, everyone.